I can tell just by seeing all of you here in this class today that all of you have things you should do at certain times of the day. Now, everyone has things that they have to do, but I know a lot of us don't always show up on time to those things. Class starts at 7:15, and today I got here a little late at like 7:20. So I agree with the quote by Jones that the trouble with being punctual is that nobody's there to appreciate it. And I'm going to describe that a little bit through my experience with sports in high school and both the job that I have over the summer. So in high school, I participated in multiple sports. I did water polo, I did basketball for a year, and then swimming. And what I always hated was my coaches always would say things like, if you're on time, you're late. You should be there 15 minutes early. But then you show up and nobody's there. I would get, to practice early like they told me to, and there'd be like 2 other people with me. And, people show up late and, sometimes nothing really happens to them. So, what's the point of showing up early if no one's going to be there to appreciate it? The same thing happened with swimming and water polo especially, because for 3 years we had to go to another school because our pool was being rebuilt, and we would have morning practices on the weekends, like Saturday morning at 7:30, but everyone would always use the excuse that there was a train blocking to get across the tracks to go to the other school. So our coaches would always say, be there on time, but half the time they weren't even there when the practice was supposed to start. And usually they ended up starting more around 8 o'clock than 7:30. With my job, over the summer, I worked teaching students swim lessons at the pool. And we're supposed to start 15 minutes before the hour. So in the morning, the shift starts at 8:45. In the afternoon, it starts at 2:45. But the problem is, if you get there a little bit late, if you show up at 2:50, 2:55, they still were clocking people in at 2:45. So it doesn't really benefit anyone to show up early if you're going to get paid the same as people who are showing up late. The only thing that would happen if you showed up on time is you have to do more work and set up the pool when those people walk in at 2:50, 2:55, and they just get changed and start working instead of moving things around. So while I think that being early or being punctual is important, I agree with the statement that the trouble with being punctual is that nobody's there to appreciate it. Just from my experience, people who show up early aren't always rewarded enough, and I think that everyone should do a better effort at being on time.
All right, Isaac, the only thing I wasn't quite sure about was at the beginning of the speech when you kind of had this opening statement and you could tell that we all had something to do. I'm going, so how can you tell that we've got something to do? What is it that's tipping you off? That provokes our curiosity and makes us want to hear what you have to say, but then you don't really follow up on that. You kind of go over to the topic. So it felt like a strange transition. Everything else, though, was really solid. I thought you had a pretty straightforward point of view on the topic. There's a good setup of what your secondary points are going to be. You've got a solid set of examples that you can refer to. You give us a little bit of detail on those points. You make it kind of an interesting story. We can tell how you feel about some of those things that happened. by the expression on your face, and that you change your tone when you were frustrated a little bit, like, well, what's the value of my being there if I'm getting paid the same as everybody else who got there later than me, and I just have to work in that particular situation. So I think that you do a good job kind of conveying some emotions there, and also speaking to us. You have a good vocal projection, and it sounds very controlled when you're speaking. You know what you want to say, you get through it fluently. There aren't a lot of hesitations except the occasional thing that is normal. It sounded very solid. You have excellent audience contact while you're speaking to us, at least with this part of the room. Maybe the corners of the room could get a little bit more attention. But I think that's one of those things that happens because I'm sitting here and the camera's here, and the people tend to focus, and you're standing right in the center, you tend to focus more on what's right in front of you. Don't forget to maybe change the angle of your body a little bit for them, and that'll help. But I didn't think that anything was problematic. I thought that you had a really good summary and exit at the end of the speech also, which when you leave a good impression, that's covers any of the other sins that were going on. So thank you.